The leader is Tua. Second in is Allen with 18. Mahomes is third with 17. And I was surprised to see, I believe he's the leader. It's definitely up there, top 2 or 3. Highest touchdown rate in the NFL is Russell Wilson. Russ has 16. He's 3 back. Russ has 3 touchdown games. We're living in a world where we have such bad quarterback play, but Russ is 3 back and he has three touchdown games. Now the bye has happened. Does Russ have a chance at 14-1?
Hell no. There is no way I'm putting any money on Rusty Russ. If anything, I'm looking at a guy that's right next to him in Jalen Hurts, who has the best receiver in the league. I think Jalen Hurts could definitely finish the season in the conversation for passing leader or passing touchdowns.
It's a bit of an ugly slate. I don't love it or have as much conviction as I did last week, but Detroit is certainly a big one. And then, you know me, I'm going to come in and bring a Wong teaser on a Wednesday. I do like the Minnesota Vikings as a leg here, currently a +2.5. I just mentioned those New Orleans Saints. Look, they're 23rd in dropback success rate. The defense is susceptible. And then Derek Carr against the blitz has been solid over his career, no question about it. But they're going to be under siege. And this offensive line is both injured and just not very good. And that's kind of been the strength of this Saints team for so long. So I like them as one of the legs potentially. And then the Buffalo Bills, who I am kind of low on long term. But I think you tease them down to -1.5 against the Denver Broncos. It's a get-right spot at home. It's a must-win football game, in my opinion. But then also, Josh Allen and this offense still have been productive the last couple of weeks. Cincy game was not super clean, but they're still up there in, points per drive, yards per drive conversion rate, all these metrics. And against Denver, I think they'll right the ship. So that's the Wong teaser of this particular Wednesday.
What are the options for the Arizona Cardinals going forward, assuming that they're getting number 1, number 2, number 3 next season?
Yeah, I think the key is what you touched on is you got to see what you have, right? You want to play him and see what's there. And look, if he wins his way out of a top pick, I think you're okay with that. I think I'm starting to go against the grain a little bit, where I certainly understand the argument of just lose a bunch of games. You're obviously not very good right now. Get Caleb Williams or Drake May and just kind of start this whole thing over. That obviously, in a vacuum makes plenty of sense. But I'm kind of buying into the idea of if Kyler comes back and looks good in a very, very competent offense with Drew Petzing, this rookie class that the Cardinals have, Paris Johnson looks good. B.J. Ojolari now looks good. Garrett Wilson, the corner, looks good. Garrett Williams and Michael Wilson, the receiver, also was super productive. Like, you had 2 more top 15 picks, maybe add a Marvin Harrison Jr. level prospect, or a Joe Alt and Olu Fashanu at tackle, and then also add another receiver or another defensive piece, whatever. Kyler, I think his narrative and his reputation has gone too far. He's a top 12, top 10 quarterback in the NFL to me. If he plays like it down the stretch, I build around him. And I say, you know what? Let's just build this thing around Kyler. I like the coaching staff, etc. So I think I'm probably in the minority there, but I think it could be interesting to go that route as well.
There's some real great evidence, especially when you look at DVOA, that the Ravens are undervalued in the Super Bowl market. How do you look at it?
Yeah, our numbers love the Ravens right now, like crazy love the Ravens, as in they are the 3rd best team we've ever tracked through 9 games, which sounds crazy, and I don't think they're really that good. But they've beaten, like, we keep moving the goalposts on them, like, oh, I'll believe in the Ravens when they beat a good team. They beat Detroit, which is 6-2. They beat Cleveland and Seattle, which are both 5-3. And they didn't just beat these teams, they demolished all 3 of these teams. That is the sign of a top team. So they are absolutely undervalued in the Super Bowl market. But just in case we're wrong about the Ravens, I went in and I lowered their rating by 20% so that it's the same as Kansas City's, so that they're both like tied at the top instead of Baltimore being way ahead. Then I reran our playoff simulation, and I still ended up with an assumed odds for the Ravens of +750, and the BetMGM odds are +900. So even if you think that we are overvaluing the Ravens by like a huge amount, they're
Mm-hmm.
still a really good bet.
There's another big difference here with your numbers compared to the Super Bowl odds. Super Bowl odds have the Eagles as the best team in the NFC, second best in the league as the second favorite, but you have the Eagles down at 10. Why the Eagles so far down?
Yeah, it's really interesting and it feels wrong. Like if you look at the Eagles and the teams that are slightly above them, subjectively, I'd put the Eagles above Cleveland. I'd put the Eagles above Dallas. I'd put the Eagles above Jacksonville, but they're not the number one team in the league. They have a lot of close wins against bad opponents, right? They have the nice convincing win against
Mm-hmm.
Miami, but then they have a lot of close wins against bad opponents. We're not the only stat that has them lower. ESPN's FPI has Philadelphia 7th right now, which I think is a little bit more probably close to where they should be. Now, if you want to talk about Super Bowl odds, the fact is we can talk about ratings, but they're 8-1, right? So they seem to have the inside track on the number one seed. Their schedule is not as hard as people think it is the rest of the way. They're already 8-1. I don't think I wouldn't put money on them, but I don't think they're dramatically overvalued. But as far as like how good the actual teams are in a neutral, on a neutral field, which they'll never play on because games are likely to be at Lincoln Financial, but on a neutral field, they simply have not been as good this year as San Francisco and Detroit.
So I'm looking forward to Celtics Sixers tonight. So the Celtics are coming off an overtime loss to Minnesota, which is a team that many predicted to actually be good this year. I was looking at it. Rudy Gobert is actually getting double doubles again. If you're looking for some Minnesota props, but I digress. Back to this game. The Sixers, they might be a little fraudulent. You look at their schedule; they've won a ton of games, but the Sixers did lose to the Bucks. Then they beat a ton of good teams. I guess you can't say the Suns are trash, but Wizards, Raptors, Blazers, I mean, they've just been beating up on some average or less than average teams. So I like the Celtics, and this actually has come down to -2. I think it's a good bounce back spot for them. I think they're going to be hungry against a team in the East that, has been riding a winning streak and may be due for an L.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And look, it's been an easy road so far, and this road isn't going to continue. They're the only team that's perfect, Philadelphia, against the number. They are 6-0 against the spread. They're covering by almost 8 points per game. So I actually look at that and say, you want to look to the other side, and what are they? They're a home dog against Boston. Isn't the market kind of telling us everything with that? They've covered every game by a lot, and for them to be a home dog, I'm like, yeah, Celtics probably the right side. The Bulls are favored over the Suns tonight. What?
Sure.
Why? Well, the reason is because Booker's out. Beal is questionable. Welcome to capping the NBA. But they still have this guy, Kevin Durant. He's pretty good. Yeah, am I laying 1.5 with the Bulls? Absolutely not. I just found that to be really, really interesting in that spot. I'm not going to be betting it, but it just jumped out to me. Also, Miami has been terrible against the number. They're 1-6 against the spread, and they are a 2-point road favorite. Where in Miami's a road favorite, they have not won on the road yet. They're at Memphis, 1-6. Memphis hasn't won at home yet. They're 0-3 at home. So, I mean, what do you do with this one? Like, yes, there's going to be positive regression against the spread for the Miami Heat, but they're in Memphis, So, do you trust Miami? I mean, maybe. I just found that to be pretty interesting. Milwaukee, a team that's not covering, and they've not been covering by 9 points per game. They're 1-4-1 against the spread, but they're still favored by 12 against Detroit tonight.
Yeah, that's head scratching. Man, I would probably just blind bet Pistons. Plus, there's even a 12.5 out there. Just follow that trend. Maybe the books must be a lot higher on the Bucks and haven't caught up yet.